Marvel will introduce a female Thor replacement. According to a press release, she's now the one and only Thor, and she is worthy.
Marvel said what? Well, actually they didn't say that. What they said was they're going to have Thor, after all these years, become unworthy to wield his hammer, Mjolnir. Because the way Mjolnir works in the comic is that gives him all his powers. And then they said a woman would be worthy that comes along, when they haven't said who she is yet. We can talk about that later, who she might be. That's some potential spoilers. But she will pick up the hammer, be worthy, and they're going to call her Thor, or Thor, God of Thunder. And the problem with this is that's not how the hammer works. So there's a lot of people upset over it at the current time, including myself to a degree. The way they're presenting it just doesn't seem right, and that's the way it is. But we've got a lot of special guests today, and we're going to read off comments offline, like we promised everyone, the different views that are out there right now. But the way it's looking on our poll, it's looking like we have, I think, I can't remember the exact figures.
It's 102 against Marvel changing Thor into a woman.
To 13 or something.
To
like
13 that want the change from Marvel.
Change. Well, we've got special guests, and our first special guest is Casey Hendershot. You all might know him from Deadliest Warrior, which we did some videos about that. I'm sure the people that know us know this. And he was giving his opinion on it. Now, his opinion is from the movie point of view. He worked in the first Thor movie, and he was the, if you want to know who he acted as, you can look at IMDb, but he was the one who was in the choreography with the fight between Hemsworth, or Thor in the movie, the Thor in the movie, and Tursa, or a frost giant. And it was a good scene. So he's a good friend of ours, and he's been in other movies as well. He's a stuntman, stunt coordinator, extra, an actor, Casey Hendershot, and we're going to hear from him right now.
All right, let's go to Casey Hendershot, see what he has to say.
Definitely an interesting choice by Marvel to make Thor a woman. It's interesting that Thor is all of a sudden not going to be worthy, and then a completely new character who's, I mean, now granted, I don't follow the comics. I'm just going to come from a newbie perspective and working on one of the films and kind of being a fanboy that way. You know, Thor is this man, he's a Viking, you know, and to wield the hammer, and I don't have a problem with a woman wielding the hammer. That's fine. But it's kind of like, can't that be like maybe a side story, or a, you know, Thor's in trouble and she needs to help him, therefore she's worthy to wield the hammer. You know, it's an interesting choice by Marvel. I'm sure it's, I've heard it's not for the movies, it's just for the comic book, but you know, eventually the movies follow the comic book. So if they do stick with the storyline, you know, there's probably going to be a female Thor. Well, if there is, I want to be up for the male Wonder Woman, because I'm a big guy. So I'll have to cut up a little bit for it, but I'm down. But you know, I don't want to say I hate it, because I don't hate it if it were just like a temporary storyline that they followed. You know, if Thor is going to be a woman for the rest of Marvel's existence, that would be I don't know how much I'd like that now, but that's also coming from not a comic book reader, but a movie watcher. So, you know, I'm sure that they'd find some sexy actress that would look pretty cool in some costume that they, you know, put her in, and, you know, she'd look pretty badass with the hammer. But, you know, I think Chris Hemsworth, you know, as far as the movies are concerned, makes a good Thor, and, you know, looks good at it, and does a really good job. Was fun to work with, you know, and I think, but you know what? By the time, he'll probably be 7 movies in by the time they get to that. So it'll be like, you know what? I'm 40. It's time. Give Thor to somebody else. No, but I'm sure I don't even know if he'd like it to be a female necessarily. But you know, I see how they're, you know, maybe the Marvel's trying to be progressive, and you know, they're changing a lot of, you know, Captain America, as we discussed, is going to be the Falcon, and that's another interesting sort of swap, if you will. But then, you know, maybe even with the Steve Rogers, maybe it's temporary. Like, I think the female Thor will be temporary. And again, you know, why isn't she Valkyrie, goddess of thunder? Why does she take Thor's name? Thor was already Thor before he became worthy and to wield the hammer. So, you know, I wish there would be a little more explanation in that. But yeah, should be interesting. Yeah. But I like Thor as a guy. If you're putting a gun to my head, yes, I want Thor to be a man. Because I'm a big ass Viking, and I like big ass Vikings to be men. Unless they're Valkyries or shield maidens.
I'm sorry, but I can't wait to see Casey as Wonder Woman.
Wonder Man.
Princess. Yeah,
oh no,
Wonder
he's got to take her. He's got to take Wonder Woman's name.
Yeah, now actually, Wonder Woman. Sorry, Casey, I really don't want to see that. We've seen it.
Even if he had Linda Carter's body.
Oh no, sorry.
Heavens, no, you with the beard and everything.
No. Viking Warrior any day. Love to see him on Vikings on the History Channel, but no, Casey, no, don't do that.
Don't do Wonder Woman.
You were good. No, not that.
Not Wonder Woman.
That. But anyway, as we heard there, that was good news that Chris Hemsworth has a contract, and I've looked online. It has actually for about 3 movies or so, and at least the next 3 movies will have him. Hopefully, they won't make him unworthy to wield his hammer and give him some axe, Bjorn, or whatever, and have him running around being kind of a villain, you know, outlaw or something, and then put a lady in his place. But who knows? We don't know yet. But we want to look at this from a heathen perspective, or a pagan or Asatru perspective. So what we've done is we've got another special guest that a lot of you may know, especially fans of our videos, Freya Aswynn. She is a priestess of Odin and Asatru. She's been into the tradition forever. Everyone knows her. Her Galdor calls are well known. She's a founder of the Ring of Troth, which is European. That's a European version of the Troth here. And we're in Texas, and that's where it started by Edward Thorson. But actually is recognized as a religion. This is a religion that they're actually talking about. This comes from the Eddas, for people who don't know. And a lot of the information that they throw in there even comes from the sagas, you know, that they weave into this comic book as they go. So basically they've taken a character that's not just a character, it's a god that goes back to the Neolithic period at least, maybe Paleolithic, because we have drawings and stuff, cave drawings, that are the same symbols in those regions of the country, the northern European regions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hear her opinion on how she feels about this. And I know how I feel about it, but let's go ahead and hear what she has to say. It is a great honor to have her, and it was a pleasure to speak with her.
All right, well, here's Freya Aswynn for y'all.
The son of earth smokes with his hammer the Midgard's arm, then died soon after, poisoned by the breath of the beast.
I find it disgusting, frankly. It's insane. What the fuck are they fucking about with these things, you know? There is a story about Thor cross-dressing to get his hammer back. And that obviously is a psychological teaching for men to connect with the feminine side of themselves in order to relate to female witches. But I know how symbology talks to the deep, collective and conscious. If we accept, for the sake of argument, that the gods, in addition to what they are also archetypes. One could say that the way they behave as archetypes is their handle, how they can make themselves known to us as we need to have a reference, we need to have a name and a story, and in order to communicate, we must have a common language. And it's the language of imagery and symbology. Now, on a very deep level, this is being corrupted, polluted, if you like. Not because there's anything wrong with a priestess of Thor or a Viking warrior woman, they undoubtedly were some, but to actually cast Thor, I don't know the story where he actually, does he get reborn as a woman, or does just his magical gear get transformed to a woman? If it's just a comic strip, well, it's silly. But if it would be a film and a visual imprint on people's mind, that would be very, very bad for the. Yes, yes. And when it comes to these kind of things, it's always a hundred monkey effect. If 51% of people believe in something, the rest will follow. So it could actually be an active working to turn the energy of Thor female, to emasculate the strongest male archetype of the Nordic pantheon, rather than Loki, whom I could, and or even Odin. But Thor, the most masculine, would they do it to Hercules? Sauce for the goose, sauce for the gander. I think, frankly, it's an outrage, and I do not discount the possibility that there's more to it. That's all I'm prepared to say. I think people, Asatrus everywhere, should really invoke, visualize, drum, and on Thor, our Thor, the way we see him, and keep and feed energy of plots and attention into it. That is the only countermeasures we can take. Invigorating Thor, the true Thor. A lot of those comics and also other fictional characters become archetypes in their own right. Do you understand? Like, look what happened with Stargate and Star Wars. People use these references in the everyday language. That means it is archetypal. It is part of the collective conscious, as are our gods. But it can be influenced because it's not a static computer program. It is a flexible image representation endowed by the intelligence of the god using it to communicate with us. So to keep the original god strong and hail Thor! Can you hear the thunder? It actually isn't. It's fireworks. But it is appropriate. And that is what we could do as heathens. Make him stronger. Focus on Thor. Make him the mainstay of the blood.
And that was words from Freya Aswynn, which I think we should, if you're like me and you believe in the old gods, I think we should listen to her. I have a book here, and this is my favorite book in my library about rune lore, everything. I mean, it's an excellent book. And it's Northern Mysteries and Magic, Runes, Gods, and Feminine Powers by Freya Aswynn. And this one actually came with the CD. I don't have a CD right here to show you, but it came with an actual CD and a bookmark and everything. Excellent book. I've had it for years. I've read it numerous times, and I highly recommend it. She also has a web page. We'll put that on the screen, Freya Aswynn, so you can go there if you like. But honestly, that is a horrible idea. If they do start making this into a movie, it's going to be in everybody's subconscious. Everybody's going to see Thor as this new image and unworthy. And like she said, it may hurt us Hamingia. In our beliefs, we believe in magical practices and we believe in Hamingia, which is like your karma. But our karma has to do with our actions and how people perceive us and their feelings towards us. So if everybody thinks all this unreal things about Thor, it could actually pawn off onto him. I mean, I very much so believe that. That's one of the things that worries me about this. And your children, whether you think you can avoid it or not, are going to be out there buying all the memorabilia. They're going to be buying the posters. They're going to be watching it on Disney Channel. That's right. Disney is now the mother company of Marvel. They bought it. They bought it out. But I think that's what a lot of this progressivism is they're trying to be progressive about it and empower women, but I don't think they realize that they purposely made a woman Miss Marvel and made her a Muslim. And that was to show that they accept the Muslim belief. But then again, they come around and do something like this to us. So what does that tell us?
To me, I think it tells people that our religion isn't really a religion, that you can mock it and do whatever you want with it.
Well, I know people in the military right now that are Asatru and Heathen, and when they die, they plan on having a Thor's hammer or a Valnot put on their grave, and something that's in runes. And I know that they've accepted that now. You can do that. You can have a pentagram put on there. You can have anything from if you're Wicca, whatever religion you are. You can have anything on your tombstone now at a military gravesite due to that, that's a good thing. I think everybody should be treated the same and equally, no matter what their religion is or sex or any other matter, race, what have you. But anyway, we have another special guest, and she is an Egyptologist. She's a scientist, and her name is Leslie Eastman, and she has a website as well. What is it, Mut's?
Yeah, that's right.
Temple of Mut. Yeah,
that's right.
You can go there and see it. We'll have that on the screen too, so you can go look at all her posts. She has some really interesting stuff. She works with Barry Jacobson, and she works with Silvio Canto.
Silvio Canto Jr., yeah, that's right.
Yes, and we've even been on his show a few times. But anyway, without further ado, here's Leslie Eastman.
Hi, I'm Leslie Eastman. I am a scientist. I'm an amateur Egyptologist, and I work with military history Barry Jacobson on History Bites. And we recently came across in some information that Marvel was going to feminize Thor. And as a woman who's also a men's rights activist, I have to say I'm fairly appalled. I love Thor. I must admit, not a big comic book fan, but I always watched Thor on the cartoons when I was a little girl. There was a set of hero cartoons, and Thor was my #1 favorite. And he didn't need to be feminized for me to be inspired by his message of proactivism and heroism. Now, I love the new movies, probably the only one who loves them best of all the series because of Chris Hemsworth. I think he's dishy. But that being said, I don't see why Marvel thinks it's going to appeal to women by feminizing somebody who's so perfectly masculine and really is a great symbol of all the masculine virtues women should come to appreciate. Shame on Marvel. As a capitalist, I think they can go forward with whatever model they choose, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to participate in anything that feminizes Thor, and I hope they learn a valuable free market lesson.
Alrighty, that was Leslie Eastman. She gave her opinion there, and I wholeheartedly agree with her. If you're out there and you're like me and you're offended for any reason or don't like what Marvel's doing, and of course Jason Aaron is saying he doesn't care whether we're haters or not or we don't agree with what he's doing, he's going to do it because he's in control. It's his comic, and he can do what he wants, so suck it haters. He actually posted it.
That was a tweet, yes.
Yes, a tweet. Pretty much, I paraphrased, it's not exact, but it's pretty close if you want to go look it up. So if you look at this the right way, I think our message to him is a lot like this video where you vote up or you vote down. If you don't like the new Female Thor, and they've already got all the memorabilia out there, they've got the cups, they've got stuff coming out already, they're going to have shirts and all this stuff, and your children will probably want them, don't buy it. Just like Leslie Eastman said, if you don't buy it, it's going to send a message to them. Because modern corporations are a lot like Tercer or old giants, and they were dumb. All they cared about was eating, money, wealth, growing, and getting bigger. So if they're not getting any money, they're not going to get any bigger, and they're not going to be happy, and they're going to do something to make up for it. They'll change Thor right away. It's not going to last long, not long-lived. So I like her comment there. What I also want to do is I want to introduce another special guest that we have, Barry Jacobson. We thought he was feeling under the weather, and he wasn't going to be able to do it, but he was able to. So he was feeling much better. So we got that, and I actually asked him what he thought about it and his opinion. So here is Barry Jacobson.
Well, I thought it was a ridiculous idea. I mean, here you have possibly the most popular hero of the current Marvel generation, largely due to the films. Chris Hemsworth has done a terrific job of making Thor topical again. I know the book had sagged in sales in recent years until the movie, and frankly, I was a little concerned the movie couldn't do him justice. But you got to say, he's the current Marvel lineup and film. It makes Thor sort of the star. Why would you mess with that? Why would you take the most masculine male role model in the Marvel pantheon and make him a woman? I understand the women need, heroes of their own, but there are plenty of female superheroes out there. And if you want to make a Norse superhero woman, there's Thor's daughter, which I can't remember her name, but there you go. There's also Thor's sons, if you want to give Thor a younger makeover. But there's also Sif, Lady Sif, who's a warrior woman, very popular in the movies, played by, I guess, Jamie Alexander. So why mess with Thor? It just makes no sense. I take it as a slap in the face.
Oh, that was Barry Jacobson. That was a good view from him. And as you see, we actually buy Marvel figures, comics, we buy stuff for my kids. I mean, it's actually something we like. That's in our Hall of Strength, as we call it.
Yeah,
gym.
we use Thor for inspiration. We're weightlifting.
Yeah, for sure. We love the drawings of Thor, especially that specific one. But what I wanted to talk about is, if you want to skip a few minutes, you can. But I was going to speak of potential spoilers. If they try to make us seem wrong in some way, that they've done something in a specific way, and we just don't understand it in the storyline, as Jason Aaron says. And one of the things is they have multiple universes. So as a spoiler type thing, as a potential spoiler, what if Thor becomes unworthy, and in this 10th realm thing that they've got going on, somehow he fractures reality, and this other Thor, a female version of himself, happens to come through, maybe without her hammer, and it's always been Thor in that universe, and then picks up the hammer. Well, that could be a possibility, but how convenient when all of a sudden he does something so horrible to make him unworthy that such an event would take place. Because in Marvel, they do have multiple universes. Another idea: what happens if Thor in some way got cloned or replicated, such as like a Stephen Moffat type idea, where the Doctor in Doctor Who ran into the Flesh. That's a possibility as well. Where it's an exact clone of him, but the X and Y chromosomes get moved around and he becomes female, but still has his memory and so on. Other ideas: what if he becomes so unworthy, just like Donald Blake was Thor in theory, because Odin actually cast Thor to teach him a lesson into Donald Blake. And we know this too in the comics. So what if he cast him into a woman this time, and what's left over is his fetch or whatever was left behind that committed the crime, and he's more of an anti-hero. I don't know, but any of this stuff to me just doesn't sound that appealing. I mean, why are they doing this to the character? It doesn't even seem to be a necessity.
Maybe if it was like a quantum leap thing, like when Sam Beckett leaps into a woman's body, maybe if he's still Thor inside, but outside everybody sees a woman, that'd be great to see him get all enraged if somebody hits on him.
Oh, for sure. The point I say is, yeah, if they turn him into a woman, transform him by magic, because in the comic book, they are gods. They are gods in the comic. They've never said aliens or alien beings. This is something that came up in the movie, I guess, to quell the churches so they don't have a big fit over them being gods.
And I think we're not the only ones that have these ideas. In fact, now's come the segment where we address viewer comments, and I think we got some really great ones. We promised to do this, and let's see. We're going to start with, let's say, Prince Sephiroth. He says, count me as one of the likes. No offense to Jason Aaron. I think he makes good stories, but this idea is just terror-bad. Personally, I have absolutely no problem whatsoever with Thor being named unworthy, and another person taking his spot as Thor or Goddess of Thunder. I don't even have a problem with that person being a woman, but calling this woman Thor as if it was a job title she has earned is just stupid. I'm sorry, there's no way around this.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what we're giving, is this person's going to be called Thor. Thor is his name. It was given to him. It's not a title. That's who he is. He was Thor before he was put into Donald Blake.
Yeah.
I mean, even though he turned back and forth for a long time, but I think that was just Stan Lee trying to explain how you could have this Norse god, make him like a superhero like Superman or Spider-Man, where he has an alternate identity, and change back and forth, and why he'd be here on Earth acting as a superhero as we know it.
But you know, even though we have a lot of people, a lot of viewers that really don't like the idea, we do have one person that was a disliker on our poll. That was Pookie Wood, who says, "I'm one of the dislikers. I think it's ultimately Marvel's choice, as it's their stories. I commend them for trying something new. We all know if it would be some new random chick added to the universe, we probably wouldn't care. I think this is an attention grabber. Let the stories speak for themselves."
Well, Jason Aaron believes he has full control over this, but to be honest with you, Marvel doesn't own Thor. They own their Thor, their Marvel trademark Thor, that they use the way he looks and the way they draw him and their stories of it and their artwork. They don't own Thor, the character. I mean, anybody could make a Thor comic or a Norse god comic based on the old Eddas and the sagas and stuff and mix it all up and do it right. They can. Do it more correct.
Anybody could. Really, anybody.
Publish it. No one can say anything as long as they don't say it is Marvel's Thor and they don't use the same
artwork. As long as they don't use
the
images that we're familiar with. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so I commend Pookie Wood for saying that, and Pookie Wood was really polite with you. You guys had a really good little dialogue going on. You know, it was really cool.
Pookie Wood was cool. That's why we addressed Pookie Wood.
Yeah, exactly. Well, moving on, we've got Pete, who happens to be a good friend of us through our Well of Remembrance Facebook page. Pete says, "Sure, they must be drinking estrogen-flavored Kool-Aid over at Marvel Comics HQ, the goofy Stunods." I think that's probably a Jersey term, right?
Well, what I see about it is that's basically what's going on. I think it's a gimmick. I think this is a way to get sales, and they think they're going to get people who never read the comic before, and they're going to get ladies that think this is empowering to them somehow, not even understanding any of the Norse legends or the comic book myths. They don't know anything about it. They've never even read any of this, but they're going to go out and buy this comic to try to support women's rights and feminism. But what the problem is that's not exactly what this is doing. They're just recycling an old character, and I don't see that as a they're turning a man into a woman to empower women. That makes no sense. Or not a man, but a male god.
And here's Josh Jones. He says, "Marvel's making a big mistake in doing this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. They were already playing fast and loose with a real figure from the Norse pantheon, and now they have taken it to a whole new level of ridiculous. This will offend those who follow the old ways and worship Thor, Odin, Balder, and the other Norse gods and goddesses. And I know quite a few, and it will anger the loyal fans of the comic book. Thor's main demographic is young male readers."
That's pretty much true for the most part. The movie has picked up more females because of Chris Hemsworth and it becoming a mainstream thing, not just a comic book title, but a movie that people can get into. And I think that's why they tried so hard to do what they did to make it that type of movie that everybody can get into and not be offended by.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think he makes a lot of good points, just like Freya Aswynn did. This is a religious thing. I think if you turn Muhammad or Jesus or anyone into a female, or not turn it into a female, but take a woman and say that
they took his place, that he was
and now they get to use Muhammad's name or Jesus's name or the name of. Here's someone from Protherium. "There's an overkill of chicks in comics, movies, and music nowadays. They are put everywhere, and they have all imaginable powers and conceivable skill. And guess what? It's getting old, boring, and increasingly implausible, even if it's just a comic. What's next? Should we wait for Odin turning out to be a black woman talking Ebonics? How about Beowulf being a Jewish Rasta man?"
I mean, I don't want that to come out like we're trying to be racist, but that's hilarious.
It is funny, and I think he's trying to make a point with,
There's a certain point where it's not like you're doing something to show that you're not racist as a comic book, or you're accepting other races equality. But what you're doing is you're just taking somebody you already have and turning them that way, saying that they've all of a sudden become that, or the place has been taken by somebody of that ethnic origin, race, and religion, or whatever.
Sure.
And I don't see that's actually doing anything but taking a title you already got and going, look, we're willing to sacrifice this, one of our main comics, and give it to you.
Yeah. Oh, here's one from the Four-Headed Dragon. "It seems like a lot of people don't even read far enough beyond the headlines to even know what they are not turning Thor into a woman, even though it has been done once before, but that a new female character is going to be wielding Mjolnir under the name of Thor in an attempt to gain new readership. Marvel is alienating the fans it already has by sidelining the character. Excuse me, by sidelining the character that drew people to this comic in the first place. This would be like replacing He-Man with She-Ra.
But insists that we call him He-Man.
Yeah.
I know. I read
and
that was an excellent way of putting it. Just like we're saying, all of a sudden we're going to take She-Ra and substitute her for He-Man.
What's the deal?
And then all of a sudden, I mean, this is He-Man. No, that's She-Ra. I've seen her before.
So now you're giving a male gender role. Yeah.
And he's unable to wield his sword anymore.
So she can only call on the power of Grayskull now.
She can call on the power of Grayskull. That was the old one, by the power of Grayskull.
That was the old one.
They didn't do that in the movie. But,
no, they didn't. But we remember that from the cartoons and the action figures.
Or anything they want to say. He died, so she took his place. But now she's He-Man. She'd still be She-Ra. She'd just have his sword.
Yeah, but now you're giving a gender role and a gender identity to something that has a sexual woman's figure, breasts and what have you.
Thor, the name is a male god's name. I mean, it's definitely a male name. Even the versions of it, like Thorvald, Thorkill, Thorgil, but they don't name
Thorgeir.
Yeah, but that means the spear of Thor.
Yeah.
But they don't name humans like the Old Norse men.
That's right.
Thor or Thor.
Here's one from Barry Jacobson that I thought we'd share. Jason Aaron, the errant knave who pens these tomes, should be taken out and soundly thrashed. I hereby challenge the scoundrel to meet with me the Hazelrods where you defend this trollish debasement of Thor's very name in manly fashion. Zounds! But this putrid idea stinks to Asgard and doth offend the very nostrils of the gods.
Yeah, he's got the little tongue in cheek there too. He's got the smiley face. Yeah, I don't think he really wants to fight Jason Aaron. Well, who knows with Barry? I know Barry well. If he accepted this in the proper form,
it'd be a great trial by
combat. But he's being funny with it. And he's going with the whole Asgardian or Asgard theme from the comic.
Yeah,
and I really love it. This was cool. It was a good show. Is outrage, and you can actually see this at Marvel.com.
That's right. You can see it at Marvel,
and where we proudly announced Thor. Barry Jacobson.
I think we have the link to our Facebook page as well. So you can always check out what Barry says there. And let's go to our last posting, which is not actually from our YouTube site or from our Well of Remembrance. This one was from, who was it, CBS?
I'm not even sure.
Or ABC. It was one of the major
Todd
networks.
Robertson was the one I was going to address. And he actually says that an alien named Beta Ray Bill used the hammer. And also, not to mention, there was a frog. And the thing with this is the frog was Thor. Thor got turned into a frog by Loki or something. I'm not sure exactly what. I don't remember exactly every detail. But it did spawn another character named Throg, which is not Thor.
Yeah, he's still not
quite as powerful as Thor, but he has powers like Thor. It's a spin-off. It's some kind of an animal version of the, you can look up the Avengers. He's a separate character. Thor was a frog for a while, and he had his chariot with two goats flying around in it and everything, and he became Thor again. That's not somebody else. That's Thor. Okay? Beta Ray Bill, he fought Thor over the hammer. He got the hammer. They had to fight again to see who got to keep the hammer because he was worthy to wield it. He wanted to save his people. He's a worthy person. He eventually made his own hammer. He never said he was Thor. He was Beta Ray Thor or Beta Ray Bill. He told people that I'm not Thor, I'm Beta Ray Bill. But he still helped out. He was a good man. Or good alien man.
He had a sense of humanity, if you will.
Correct. And he's bringing this stuff up and then saying they're aliens, and we already brought that up. They're aliens in the movie. They do not bring this point up or emphasize it in the comics. And Thunderstrike. Thunderstrike defended Thor and it was against Mongoose, I believe. And he picked up the hammer to save Thor because Thor had dropped the hammer. He gained some power from it, tried to attack Mongoose, and he was still killed in the process pretty much. He was dying. There's nothing you could do to save him. Thor called in the All-Father and said, this is such a valorous man, a great man. Of course, I'm telling it my way, but that's what happened. Please help me save him. And Odin said, the only thing I can do is do pretty much what you did with Blake. I can put you in it. You would save him if I make you all one. So that's what took place. So Thunderstrike did run around as Thor, but he was Thor in essence. They were merged. We have one last opinion. And he really wanted to put this opinion in. He's a friend of ours, and me and my wife, Eldgrim and us run into regularly. We call him the Wanderer. Most people would say he's a homeless man. But he's different. He gives us gifts and stuff. I mean, I've gone by and talked with him, and he'll end up giving my children gifts or something. He's a really cool man. And we're not sure exactly what his name is, He's given us many different ones, but he wanted to give his opinion. And if you know the old legends of the Norse, me not to give some guy that's a wanderer like that an opinion could be drastic for my Hemingo, if you know what I mean. So we wanted him in for the last spot. He has an opinion on Thor being a woman, and he definitely wanted to be here today. So without further ado, here's our friend that we normally call the Wanderer.
Nice to see you again.
Ah, most definitely. What I was going to ask you is, what do you think about Thor being a woman in Marvel?
Well, it must have hurt a lot. It's not a good idea. It's like they already got plenty of female characters that are very courageous and very brave and very strong. But why would they want to take a man and make him into lesser of a man like that?
Well, I don't know if a woman's lesser of a man, but yeah, I know what you're saying. He's not a man anymore.
Yeah, they took his title. They
gave his name.
I think Marvel took a story of an ancient god that was truly a god, and twisted it to the point that it's like it doesn't make any sense anymore.
But of course. That's what you had wanted to tell us. We have prepared a special meal tonight. I've got some wild hog and drink. And I would like you to hang out with us tonight and eat since you came here to give us your opinion.
Well, I have a question for the Wanderer. Wasn't Thor a woman before in the old Eddas and the old sagas?
As far as I remember, he had a sister a long time ago, maybe. But it's like, again, it's turned into a woman. That was his brother Loki's trick, I'm pretty sure. And it's like from what I understand, they're not actually making Thor into a woman physically. They're not giving her a sex change. I went, that'd be terrible. But it's like, no, they're replacing him with a girl. And it's like,
how would she be strong enough to wield a hammer?
How does that go with the religions? These are ancient religions. These are people that fought and died believing in those gods. For hundreds of years, they fought and died believing in those gods, and now they're mocking those gods. And it's like they would not like it if somebody made Jesus into a girl or the Virgin Mary into a boy. I'm pretty certain of that.
Of course they wouldn't. I'm positive.
Well, thank you, Wanderer. That was very informative.
Those are the Wanderer, and our friend, the Wanderer.
They would have it. I think it started with Lilith. It was like the whole thing.
Oh, more
it was like she's probably running Marvel Comics right now.
There you go. Well, anyway, I bid you farewell. Come back and check us out again later.
We never had these problems with the Norse gods.